In the most scrutinized 6 seconds of the 20th century, every frame of film, every photo, and every shadow has been picked apart for meaning. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy on November 22, 1963, is a wound in the American psyche that's never quite healed, partly because the official story has always felt incomplete. We have the Abraham Zapruder film, a horrifying second-by-second account. We have eyewitness testimonies, police reports, and official investigations. But what if the single most important piece of evidence from that day was captured by a ghost? A woman who stood in plain sight, recorded history from a perfect angle, and then, as chaos erupted around her, simply vanished, leaving behind a mystery that has haunted researchers for over 60 years. While bullets ripped through the air and a nation's innocence was shattered, one figure remained strangely calm. She didn't duck, she didn't run. She stood her ground, her face blocked by a camera pointed right at the presidential limousine. She captured a film that could have rewritten the story of what happened that day. And then, she was gone. For decades, the legend of this woman, known only as the Babushka Lady, has fueled one tantalizing question. Who was she, and what secrets did her lost film hold? The answer, it turns out, is far more complex and revealing than the myth. It's a story not just about a mystery woman, but about how legends are born, how facts get buried by fiction, and how sometimes the truth is hiding in plain sight.
To get the Babushka Lady enigma, we have to go back to the heart of the storm, Dealey Plaza, 12:30 p.m. The scene is festive, right up until it turns to terror. As the presidential motorcade makes its slow, fateful turn onto Elm Street, the crowds are cheering and snapping photos. Abraham Zapruder is on his perch, his Bell and Howell movie camera whirring, unknowingly capturing the most famous home movie in history. But across the plaza, on the south side of Elm Street, another figure is filming. She's standing on the grass between Main and Elm, a spot that gives her a unique and forensically vital perspective. She's a phantom in the historical record, visible only in the films of others. In Zapruder's film, she's a distinct figure in a tan or light brown coat, her head covered with a scarf tied under her chin. That scarf, similar to those worn by elderly Russian women, is what earned her the nickname the Babushka Lady. The name itself felt mysterious, hinting of foreign intrigue, of an outsider watching a uniquely American tragedy. But what makes her so captivating isn't just how she looked, it's how she acted. We can see her in films taken by Orville Nix and Marie Muchmore, too. After the shots ring out, the crowd's reaction is instant and visceral. People scream and they hit the dirt, they run for cover, their faces a mask of panic. But not the Babushka Lady. She stays standing, seemingly unfazed, her camera still glued to her eye. She keeps filming like a detached observer, a documentarian capturing a scene she might have expected. This unnerving calm in the middle of pandemonium is the first layer of her legend. Why didn't she react? Was it shock, or was it something else? After the limousine sped off toward Parkland Hospital, eyewitnesses reported seeing the woman cross Elm Street and walk up the grassy knoll, the exact spot many believe a second shooter was hiding. She seems to join the frantic crowd surging toward the stockade fence, looking for answers, for a gunman, for anything. Then she's last seen in photos walking east on Elm Street before disappearing entirely. She just melts back into the city and out of the historical record. In the days that followed, the FBI put out a massive public appeal, asking anyone with photos or film from Dealey Plaza to turn them over. It was an all-out effort to collect every possible angle. Photos and films poured in, but from the Babushka Lady, nothing. No film ever surfaced. No woman came forward. For the Warren Commission, the group set up to investigate the assassination, she was a complete dead end. It was like she never existed, except for her ghostly image and other people's footage. The importance of this missing film can't be overstated. It's what turned a weird anomaly into a cornerstone of conspiracy lore. Her vantage point was almost the polar opposite of Abraham Zapruder's. He was on the north side looking down, she was on the south side looking slightly up. Her film could have offered a clear shot of the Texas schoolbook depository window where Lee Harvey Oswald allegedly fired. Even more tantalizing, her camera was pointed directly at the infamous grassy knoll. The theory of a second gunman on the knoll is one of the most persistent debates about the assassination. Zapruder's film shows Kennedy's head recoiling violently backward, which many argue is proof of a shot from the front. The Babushka Lady's film, from her unique spot, could have been the smoking gun. It might have shown a puff of smoke from behind the fence. It might have caught a shooter on camera. It could have settled the conspiracy debate once and for all. The idea that this crucial evidence existed and then just vanished was intoxicating. It suggested the truth was out there, but had been hidden. And so the theories started swirling. Was she a government agent recording the event for an internal review? Her calm demeanor would fit. A Soviet spy, a KGB operative documenting a Cold War plot. That babushka scarf, likely just a way to guard against the damp chill, fueled this idea. Or was she something more sinister, part of the plot, filming the assassination as proof for her co-conspirators? Her disappearance and her silence in the face of FBI pleas seemed to prove she had something to hide. She wasn't just a witness, she was a puzzle. And for years, that puzzle seemed unsolvable. The woman with no record, who held the key to one of America's greatest traumas, had appeared and then vanished like a ghost.
For 7 years, the Babushka Lady's identity was a total mystery. She was a blank space in the story that everyone was desperate to fill. Then, in 1970, a woman stepped forward and claimed the title. Her name was Beverly Oliver, and her story was so explosive, so perfectly tailored to the darkest suspicions around the assassination, that it threatened to blow the whole case wide open. If what she said was true, it wouldn't just solve the mystery, it would connect Lee Harvey Oswald to the mob and implicate the FBI in a cover-up. Beverly Oliver's story first surfaced when she spoke to researcher J. Gary Shaw. At the time of the assassination, Oliver was a 17-year-old singer and dancer at the Colony Club in Dallas, a rival to a nearby club owned by a man named Jack Ruby. This connection was the first hook. She claimed she didn't just know Ruby, but was a regular at his carousel club. According to Oliver, she was the woman in the tan coat and headscarf on November 22, 1963. She said she was there filming the motorcade with what she described as a brand new experimental Yashica Super 8 movie camera. She was in the exact spot the Babushka Lady is seen in the Zapruder film. She recalled the horror, the sight of the president's head exploding, and the chaos that followed. But it's what she said happened next that made her a conspiracy icon. Just a few days after the assassination, she claimed 2 men who identified themselves as FBI agents came to see her. They said they needed her film for their investigation. Young and scared, she handed it over, undeveloped. They promised to return it in 10 days. She never saw them or the film again. No receipt, nothing. She would later name one of the agents as a man called Regis Kennedy. This was a bombshell. It was the perfect explanation for why the film never surfaced. It was seized by the very people looking for it. But Oliver's story went deeper. She later claimed that her acquaintance, Jack Ruby, had once introduced her to Lee Harvey Oswald, saying, "Beverly, I'd like you to meet my friend Lee Oswald. He's with the CIA." She even claimed to have seen Oswald with David Ferrie, another key figure in conspiracy circles. Suddenly, Beverly Oliver wasn't just a witness. She was the link connecting Oswald, Ruby, the CIA, and maybe the Mafia. Her story was dramatic and seemed to confirm everyone's worst fears. She was featured in the 1988 documentary series The Men Who Killed Kennedy and was even portrayed by an actress in Oliver Stone's 1991 blockbuster JFK, which brought her claims to a massive audience. For millions, Beverly Oliver was the Babushka Lady. Mystery solved. Or was it? As researchers looked closer, her story began to unravel. The first big problem was the camera. Oliver was very specific, a Yashica Super 8. The issue? The Super 8 film format wasn't introduced until 1965, and Yashica's Super 8 cameras came out that year or later, a full 2 years after the assassination. When confronted with this, Oliver changed her story, claiming it was an experimental prototype. No evidence for such a prototype has ever been found. The second problem was the FBI agent she named, Regis Kennedy. She claimed he took her film in Dallas on November 25, 1963, but official records show that on that exact day, Agent Regis Kennedy was in New Orleans interviewing someone else for the investigation. He had a solid alibi. It was impossible for him to have been the one who took her film. Beyond those two massive holes, other parts of her story didn't add up. No other witness has ever been able to confirm she was even in Dealey Plaza. Photographic analysis comparing the Babushka Lady to photos of Oliver from 1963 was inconclusive at best, with many researchers arguing the woman in the film appears heavier and older than the slender 17-year-old Oliver was. Her story also kept changing over the years, often incorporating new theories as they popped up. When one theory in the 1990s suggested a man named Roscoe White was a grassy knoll shooter, Oliver suddenly remembered seeing him there. That theory was later exposed as a hoax, damaging her credibility even more. At one point, she claimed her lost film had been found and she had 4 frames, but she refused to show them. A researcher who did see them later revealed they were just stills from the well-known Nix film. By the time the House Select Committee on Assassinations investigated in the late 1970s, Oliver's claims were largely dismissed. While she's still a celebrated figure in some conspiracy circles, most credible historians have concluded her story is a fabrication. She wasn't the Babushka Lady. The mystery hadn't been solved. It had just been sidetracked by a very good story. While the world was captivated by the sensational tale of Beverly Oliver, the real story of the woman in the headscarf was sitting quietly in the files of the Dallas Sheriff's Department. The truth is, the Babushka Lady wasn't a spy or a teenage dancer. She was a 31-year-old mother from Dallas named Mary Ann Mormon. And she didn't have a movie camera seized by shadowy agents. She had a Polaroid, and the photo she took that day still exists. On the morning of November 22, 1963, Mary Mormon and her friend, Jean Hill, went to Dealey Plaza to see the president. It had been raining, so Mormon wore a coat and a headscarf to protect her hair, the very scarf that would make her a figure of international intrigue. She was holding her Polaroid Model 80A camera, hoping to get a good picture. As the limousine came toward her, Mormon stepped into the street to get a clearer shot. At that moment, she heard what she thought was a firecracker. In her statement to the Dallas County Sheriff's Department on the very day of the assassination, she said she heard a shot, and then, as she snapped her picture, she heard 2 more in quick succession. She recalled seeing the president slump over. The photograph she took in that split second is now known as the Mormon photograph. It is one of the most significant and analyzed images from the assassination. It was captured approximately 1/6 of a second after the fatal headshot. The image is blurry and chaotic. It shows the back of the limousine, Jackie Kennedy leaning over her husband, and a haunting view of the grassy knoll in the background. It captured the horrific climax from a perspective no one else had. And here's the key part. Mary Mormon didn't vanish. Immediately after the shooting, she and Jean Hill were approached by reporters and law enforcement. There are photos of them at the sheriff's office that same day. She gave a voluntary statement to the FBI and the sheriff's department right then and there. She was later called to testify before the Warren Commission, but a sprained ankle kept her from going on the scheduled date. The commission, for whatever reason, never rescheduled. A puzzling oversight, sure, but not evidence of a plot. So if Mary Mormon was known to authorities from day one, how did the myth of the vanished Babushka Lady with a lost movie film take over? It's a mix of things. Information moved slowly back then. The public had a huge appetite for conspiracy, and an unsolved mystery is always dramatic.
Early researchers saw the woman in the headscarf in the films, assumed she had a movie camera, and gave her the nickname. When the FBI's appeals didn't produce a movie from that spot, the assumption was that she was hiding something.
Then, in 1970, Beverly Oliver's story filled the void with a narrative that was far more exciting than the simple truth. Her story, with its spies and mobsters, was just a better story. The significance of Mary Mormon's actual photo is still fiercely debated. It doesn't have a crystal-clear image of a shooter, but it's a battleground for researchers. The photo is grainy, especially in the background. However, some analysts claim to see strange shapes on the knoll. The most famous is the so-called badge man, a figure that some believe is visible behind the fence, appearing to wear a police uniform and fire a rifle. This idea came from enhancements of the photo done for the House Select Committee on Assassinations, though the committee itself found the analysis inconclusive. Other researchers say it's all just tricks of light and shadow, the mind seeing patterns in random data. Over the years, Mary Mormon has given several interviews, consistently telling her story. In a 2013 PBS documentary, she recalled being close enough to hear Jackie Kennedy cry out that her husband had been shot. She lived a quiet life, forever tied to one of history's biggest traumas by a single picture she snapped. The real Babushka Lady wasn't a mystery to be solved, but a witness who had been overlooked. The story of the Babushka Lady is a perfect example of how a conspiracy theory works. When the official story doesn't feel satisfying, we fill in the gaps with stories that feel more complete, even if they aren't true. The myth of the vanished filmmaker persisted for so long not because of a lack of evidence, but because the myth itself was just more compelling than reality. It promised a key that would unlock the entire truth. Why did the legend eclipse the documented facts about Mary Ann Mormon? First, the power of a good story. A mysterious woman, maybe a spy, who captures a world-changing secret on film and then disappears, is a Hollywood thriller. It's packed with intrigue and danger. A Dallas housewife who took a blurry Polaroid, talked to the cops, and went home is not. The public wanted a mystery that matched the scale of the crime. Beverly Oliver's arrival in 1970 was the spark that lit the fire. Her story was a perfect fit for the growing distrust in government. She didn't just claim to be the mystery woman, her story confirmed the deepest suspicions of a cover-up. The idea that the FBI would confiscate proof of a conspiracy was exactly what many people already believed had happened. And media ran with it. Documentaries like The Men Who Killed Kennedy and Oliver Stone's movie JFK presented Beverly Oliver's claims to millions with very little skepticism. In Stone's film, she's portrayed as a credible, brave witness whose evidence was stolen by dark forces. For a whole generation, that fictional portrayal became fact. It cemented the myth in pop culture, making it incredibly hard for the quiet, factual account of Mary Mormon to break through. Also, the potential of the Babushka Lady's evidence made the myth self-sustaining. As long as the film was missing, it could contain anything. It was a blank screen for everyone to project their suspicions onto. It could be the ultimate proof. The fact that Mary Mormon's real photo exists and is blurry and ambiguous is way less satisfying. Her photo doesn't offer a clean answer, it just creates more arguments about shadows. The mythical Lost film, however, promised absolute certainty. In the end, the story of the Babushka Lady teaches us less about the JFK assassination and more about how we process history and trauma. It shows our collective desire for clean narratives, for heroes and villains, and for smoking guns that give simple answers to complex events. The myth of the vanished filmmaker with the lost evidence is powerful, not because it's true, but because it feels like it should be. The reality that the Babushka Lady was a known witness whose evidence we have, and that it's just as confusing as everything else from that day, is a much harder truth to accept. Over 60 years later, the JFK assassination is still a source of endless fascination and debate. The story of the Babushka Lady is a wild thread in that tapestry. It started as a legend of a mystery woman with a lost film. We've walked through the debunked claims of Beverly Oliver and arrived at the quiet, factual story of Mary Ann Mormon and her famous, controversial Polaroid. What this journey shows is that sometimes the greatest mysteries aren't about what's hidden, but about the stories we choose to believe. The myth was more dramatic and offered a simpler solution than the complicated reality. But the truth, in the form of Mary Moorman, was in the archives all along. Even with her real photograph, the debate just changed form, with figures like the Badge Man still fueling speculation today. The woman in the headscarf is no longer a total unknown, but the legend she sparked is a powerful reminder of how easily fact can be replaced by a good story in our collective memory. The Babushka Lady mystery isn't just about a witness, it's about our endless search for a truth that may forever remain just out of frame. What do you believe? Was the figure in the Zapruder film a total stranger, or was it Mary Moorman all along? And what do you see in the shadows of her famous photograph? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy exploring the unresolved questions of history, be sure to like and subscribe for more.